What's up guys, this is Kim from EinfachMachen. In this video I'd like to share with you a simple solution how you can create your personalized RSS newsfeed using Power Automate and Microsoft Planner, so stay tuned. First of all, let's have a look on our objectives. So the first main goal is that we only want to aggregate relevant news for us by using different RSS feeds. The second goal is we want to decide by reviewing this news whether they are relevant for us and this knowledge is relevant sharing into our organization, or it's irrelevant. And the third goal is that we want to save it to our environment so that we can distribute it from a single point of data truth into our organization. So let's have a look on our process. We have three roles in this process: the reader, the Power Automate Flow, and our RSS feed. And when a new blog post, for example from the Power Apps community blog, gets released, then our Power Automate Flow gets triggered and creates a new planner task. Our reader can then review this news just by the title and the summary and include or exclude it in our relevant news list. The reader can then review these news and decide whether he wants to include it into our internal news database or exclude it. So after his decision, when he marked this task as done, it gets saved to a SharePoint list, and the next possible steps, which we will not capture in this video but might be interesting for you, is notifying your team or create further tasks, schedule study time in Outlook for example, or make use of attachments, checklists or tags that you've put into these tasks. So quite simple process, and now let's have a look on how we can do this using Power Automate and RSS feeds. So quite simple process. Now let's have a look on how we can do this using RSS, Power Automate and our planner. The first step for us is to create a new planner, which we will call just Newsfeed. After creating the planner, I will create 3 buckets, and for each bucket there will be a different source from where my blog posts and my news will come. So I've created 4 buckets: the EinfachMachen feed, the Power Apps community blog, a low-code alert from Google, and the Lorem-RSS for testing. We will have a look on this later, how you can test and verify that your RSS Power Automate Flow works fine. So these are my different news feed. Here's the EinfachMachen blog feed as an RSS XML. Here's the Power Apps community blog, and I can just click on subscribe to RSS feed and then the XML file will be available. I also use Google Alert, so I can just create a keyword and get notified when there are new articles, new news regarding this keyword. So this is what my news feed looks like after retrieving the RSS feed. And this one, Lorem-RSS, is quite useful if you want to test whether your Power Automate Flow is working, because you can decide in which interval there are updates on this RSS feed. Like for example, if I use this type of link, I can change this to 1 second, and now after each second you can see that the content changes every time there are new updates on this RSS feed, and that's quite useful for testing whether your Power Automate Flow works fine. So talking about Power Automate, the next step is to create our flow for catching the different news on our RSS feeds, and for that we create a new flow. You can choose automated from cloud, give it a name. For testing purposes I will use Lorem-RSS, and then I can choose my trigger, and of course this must be when a feed item is published, and I click on create. Just to have mentioned it, if you do not want to create a new flow for every blog you are subscribed to, then you can use this kind of RSS aggregator to combine, for example, 5 or 10 blogs you are subscribed to or you want to use in this kind of setting, and do not need to set up a Power Automate Flow for each one possible way to do it. I will put the link to this post in the description so you can have a look on this as well. So back to our flow, the next step is to insert the RSS feed URL, put it in here. And the next step is to create a task in our planner, and we can just type in planner, choose planner, and there it already is. We can create a task now in our planner. And now I have to choose the group ID. In my case, there was a group ID created because I've chosen to create a private planner. If you create a planner in your different Microsoft teams, then you of course can use this group ID. And now I have to choose the plan ID. This is also Newsfeed. And the next step is just to put in the title, and I will use the feed title. And afterwards, I will have to decide in which bucket blog post should be put. And I will choose the Lorem-RSS. You can use custom values or if statements if you want to decide, depending on which block you want to put your news in different buckets. But for my testing purposes, I just will set a static value for this. Save this one. The next step, I want to add some details to my task. And for this, I will again look for planner, use the action update task details. And now I can decide for which task ID there should be an update and enter a custom value. And now we'll choose the ID for this. I want to put the summary of this blog post into my description and also want to add a link into my reference resource link. And I will use the primary feed link, make this work. And now I will save my flow and let's have a look on whether this works. So as you can see, it's already running because my Lorem-RSS is publishing new blog posts every 10 seconds. And we can have a look on this right now, refresh our planner. And as you can see, there are already some blog posts here. And there are also, you can see the first 3 are without an URL. And after that, after I inserted the update task details, it recognizes that I want to add the URL as an attachment. So this is what my lovely post looks like. This is basically how to set it up. You can use this for your RSS feed from your personal blog, from the Power Apps community blog, or from whatever blog you want to subscribe to. And then in the next step, we want to review these news and decide whether we want to include it into our internal knowledge list or exclude it. And for this, we need a new SharePoint list. We will call it just relevant news list for the example. I will click on new and add a new list. We'll create this list from scratch because it's a quite simple list. Call it relevant news. And after that, I would just add 2 columns to it, the summary of our blog post and the URL. So this list is quite simple, and the final step now is to create a new flow, and this flow should create a new item in the SharePoint list when I mark a task in my planner as done. So when I delete this news, then nothing should happen. And if I mark this task as done, then the information of this task shall be put into our relevant news list. So again, we create a new flow, an automated cloud flow, and we will call it create item in relevant news. And as a trigger, we will search for planner, and we can choose when a new task is created, when a task is assigned to me, or when a task is completed. And of course we choose when a task is complete. So again, we have to choose our group ID, and also the plan ID is Newsfeed. In the next step, we need some information about our task. So we need the description because we want to put it in our summary column, and we need the URL to our feed post. So we will use the get task details, enter a custom value, and use our ID again. And in the next step, we will create the item just by searching for create item. There it is. To choose the right website, I have copied it. It's this one and relevant news list. And now I can put my title in here, put my description in here, my resource link. There we go. And now it created these apply to each row. That's because I can add different attachments. So attachment is a table basically, and I can add different attachments to a task. In my case, for me, this is fine because I always will have only this URL. You can use other operations if you do not want to use these apply to each. For example, we could create a variable here and put the URL of the first attachment into a variable and then use this for the reference to link to blog post. In my case, this for me works fine. You can decide on your own if you want to use this solution or configure it on your own demands. So this is our flow now, and now let's have a look on whether it works. I will go into my newsfeed and choose this task. Here is a description. This should be in the summary column. This one should be in the title column, and the link should be in our link to blog post column. We will click on done, and this one as well, and this one as well. Great news. Let's have a look on whether our flows has already run. And as you can see, this took quite a while. I'm not quite sure what was the reason, but once triggered, the flow is quite fast, so the duration is only about a millisecond. And we can see here is our SharePoint list, so we got new entries here, and that's it basically. So hopefully this kind of managing your news might be useful for you to distribute knowledge in your organization and to use Planner and Power Automate to aggregate news. I hope you liked this video and see you next time.